Welcome to Real Estate Real Talk with me, Skyleigh. I'm a realtor, coach, and founder of Forever Kamloops and Forever Florida Real Estate Groups and the creator of Elevation Real Estate, the realtor coaching platform. After nearly a decade in this industry, I've built a business that gives me more freedom, more income, and more time with the people I love. And now I'm here to help other realtors do the same. This podcast is for agents who want to build a thriving real estate business without burning out. We talk about scaling smart and building systems so you can buy back your life, because life shouldn't feel like all work and no play. And if you're a buyer or seller tuning in, consider this your backstage pass. You'll hear unfiltered conversations with top agents and industry pros, giving you the same insights we share behind closed doors. Knowledge is power, and the more you know, the better you can advocate for yourself and work with someone who truly has your back. Let's get real. Okay, so today I am sitting here with Sammy Lyon, and I am so happy to have you here today. I think you have a big mission, and it sounds amazing, and I love that you've paired your real estate business with some initiatives. So you are based out of Los Angeles, like we were talking about, and you are a real estate broker and founder of Good Rents, which is a socially conscious real estate initiative that donates 5% of gross profits to social and racial justice causes. You've been in real estate for 6 years now, and really cool too. I'm gonna have to ask you a little bit more about this, but you were featured on HGTV, House Hunters, Newsweek, Yahoo Finance, and US News and World Report. That is very cool. So I hope that was a lot of fun. Thank you for being here today. Tell me a little bit about how you got into real estate.
Awesome. Thank you, Skyleigh. I appreciate it. Yeah, I mean, sort of by accident, I guess. I was telling you before we started recording, I was a teacher, also by accident. I graduated college. My friend said, "Hey, do you want a job?" I said, "Hey, that sounds great." And it was teaching after school gardening in a school, and I loved it. And so got my master's in education and leadership and started working in charter schools and leading like environmental justice programs for high school students, for teachers, and then was going up that ladder, and then just happened to find myself next to a really awesome colleague who taught me about house hacking, which I had never heard about before. And simply put, she was like, "Oh, you want to buy a house? You should buy a triplex, live in one unit and rent the other ones, and that'll help pay your mortgage." And I think now we're in 2026. I think people have heard of the concept, but in 2018, it was just like blew my mind. I was like, whoa, I never thought about that. That is so cool. And I just went down the rabbit hole and just got obsessed with financial freedom and real estate. And so I started investing, and then a few years later ended up, becoming a full-time real estate agent and broker. So
That is so cool. And I didn't realize that there was an actual term for it, like real estate or house hacking. Yeah, I didn't
yeah,
realize that there was an actual term for it, because you're in the States and I'm in Canada. So there's things that are very similar between us, but then there's certain words that I'm learning. So
yeah,
that's cool. And I actually ended up, my first house was a half duplex with a basement suite. And then that's how I snowballed into getting my investment properties as well. It was like the Burr method, like buy, renovate,
yeah,
refinance, repeat, keep going.
yeah.
But it's really cool that you had a similar journey, and that, yeah, house hacking for everybody
Yes.
that is
I, I
unaware.
I credit Pockets for that, for the Burr and the house hacking. I was listening to the podcast like every day, reading all the books in the library. That was, I think, in its heyday, 2018.
Yeah, it's amazing though. And it gets you, like you said, that financial freedom, right? Getting into real estate that way and then just snowballing it. So how many doors do you have now? I wanted to say properties, but at the same time I feel
Yeah,
like doors is probably the actual measurement as opposed
yeah.
to just
So
houses.
I have since sold all of the properties that I was buying in Ohio. I was in LA. I was making my education salary, which was not super high, and said, okay, I'm not going to be able to buy here. I had good low rent here, and I had looked at houses that there's like a duplex or, but we just had a great apartment with rent control and we loved where we lived. And my wife was like, do we really have to buy this house that sucks for like financial freedom? And
Yeah.
so I ended up going backwards and I didn't buy a house first. I bought investment property and I did buy out of state. And so I think the ethics of an LA person buying property in Ohio and renting it, I really grappled with that. And that's where the 5% was initiated. Was okay, how do I, if the tenant is paying 900 a month in rent but my mortgage is 350 a month, where's the gap here? So could I like set aside a percentage of that rent to help that resident buy the home? I never ended up getting any specific that exact resident bought that exact home, but I did support a rent to own project in Cleveland, which is where I was buying, that had been doing work in the community for way longer. So it just made sense to contribute that. But yeah, so that's where the 5% was born. And yeah, I ended up, I mean, I eventually had more, I guess, but in the first 10 months, I was at 10 doors.
My goodness.
So I was just like, I went all in. I was like, oh, I'm all in. I'm going to do this. Then it got a little hectic, right, with property management and
Yeah.
dropped the ball. So I learned I had to fire my manager. I was managing, they were like messing up a construction project. And so I was managing it from like every morning on LA time. I'd wake up to a bunch of texts from my tenants about this and that. And I was managing and trying to switch everything. Now my partners and I own a management company here in LA.
Very
And
cool.
yeah, I think that like experience of being a property owner and having several bad property management companies has informed my approach now. Yeah, I don't regret any of the experience, but I think I finally ended up, I've sold properties and reinvested in other things just because becoming a parent and becoming a full time realtor here didn't quite. When I had a W 2 job, it was a little bit easier to just manage properties out of state. But then as when you become a realtor, you're just, it's full time. Like
Yeah.
you got to, so an hour kind of managing properties there versus an hour trying to find clients here. It just made more sense to not have all these properties out of state. So I do have 0 doors out of state. Actually, very happy. Just closed on the last one recently. So I feel a relief.
All of
And
the like stress off your
yeah,
shoulders. There's a few things that you said though that I think are like really important pieces because like just because you do something like at one point in your life doesn't
yeah,
necessarily mean that's going to be the thing that you want to lean into like in the future.
forever.
But
Yeah, and I
you
learned so
did it and you
much.
learned a lot,
Yeah,
and then now you can even use that knowledge for the clients that you have now. And
totally.
yeah, I think that it's a good lesson to know, to learn. And the other thing that you said too was like the time investment. I think this is
Hmm.
huge is that we can run on this crazy hamster wheel and just feel like you're really going nowhere. And then when you zoom out and you look at your stuff, you're like, okay, where is my time best allocated? And I think it was a really smart decision for you to say, this doesn't really make sense right now and pull out of that timing wise. And if you're doing your property management company now, I don't, are you planning on reinvesting then in LA now that you've moved to LA? Or are you thinking just managing other people's investments instead?
Yeah, no, that's a good question. I think so. Yeah, I'm born and raised in LA, and I was lucky enough I did buy a home here, and I do house hack. I have a little rental in the back, and yeah, I did reinvest in some real estate things that have lost everything. I think a lot of people lost a lot, and when interest rates went up, and then I did have to fix my house up, which was because of, it did start raining in LA. The drought is over, and that meant a lot of people's houses had a lot of water in them. So I had to really rethink, okay, what does it mean to invest funds in real estate? And I was chasing cash flow, but appreciation in LA is very, in the same 5 year period that you might make $2,400 a year in cash flow in LA, you could your home value could increase by 400,000, right? Or 100,000. Not that that's like the way to invest. You don't want to be banking on appreciation and like gambling, but I do think putting a time and attention to the business and my home here, I had to, yeah, I guess just rethink that it was important for me to put money into my house so that we could live here without water coming in
Yeah.
every crack when it rained.
Yeah, well, I
So
mean,
I was like,
you're protecting your investment too, right?
yeah,
It's not even just, oh, I'm gonna get a return on this.
yeah,
You're protecting it too, like you have to do that.
exactly.
But you weighed the pros and cons by the sounds of
Yeah, I think like the financial freedom, it's okay, you invest in cash flowing rentals and that's the way, but I think life shifts. And like, there was a book that people have mixed feelings about, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, the book that a lot of people have read.
I actually just talked
Um,
about it on the podcast last
okay.
week. So yeah,
But that book is good. But the another book he wrote, Cash Flow Quadrant,
yeah,
that was like a huge mindset shift for me. And
yeah,
I think the basics is you're an employee or you're self-employed, but then you want to move over to the other side of the quadrant, which is like a business owner and invest. And I think that was really helpful for me to read early on because I, I even treated my real estate investments as a business. Okay, I have an email for this. I'm managing the property manager, I'm managing the contractors, and really thinking of that as a business. And then I tried to make sure that my real estate, when I became self employed, even though technically I'm self-employed, where I'm just me. It's just Sammy, right? I don't run a
it's
big
just
office with a lot of, but I set it up as a business, right?
yeah,
Like I have a business bank account, and I know your audience is realtors, right? I think people can just be like, oh, I'm just a realtor, and then I just get paid my commission, and I just go out to lunch. But no, I set it up as a business, and like it is, I have a business credit card, and like really treated it as, no, this is a business. Even though 6 years in, it's me, but the mindset shift of owning a business and having investments is truly the path to freedom, not being an employee and then just putting some money in investments. And so I think that I highly recommend that book
I
for
love it.
all business owners.
Yeah,
And I think that, like, when you think about allocating your time, it's, yeah, allocating your time to building a business is super valuable, right? Because that's something that you're going to build for a long time, or if you're building something sustainable.
yeah. No, I definitely agree, and I think it building a business and like becoming an investor and like making money from all of that, like it's not a linear process either. And
Mm-hmm.
I we talked about this a little bit at the beginning that you have this vision of where you want to go in business, in real estate, in investing, all of that kind of stuff. And we always talk about the really good parts of it, but we always forget to mention the ups and downs that come with it. And so we read these books, and the story that they're telling is that if you do this is where you're going to
Mm-hmm.
end up being. And they make it seem like it's like this, and
Mm-hmm.
in reality it's like this and this and this
Mm-hmm.
and this and this. And in order for
Mm-hmm.
them to even written the book, they
Right.
probably have failed a number of times and or had lessons that they learned in order to teach us. So I'm happy that we're having this conversation about these ups and downs and pivots and moves, because it's not linear. And I think a lot of times people get caught up thinking that, oh, I made one mistake or that wasn't the right choice, and then they just give up. And that's just not,
Yeah.
it's not the reality. So because we're still talking about like the investor and stuff mindset that we started with. So I'm curious to know if you had advice for anybody who was wanting to get into investing. Was there something that you had learned when you were growing your portfolio before that makes sense for people to be aware of?
Totally. I think being in a market like Los Angeles, it's just like a very high cost market. And so I think that it can be challenging for someone here to think about, how can I get into this? Like, how do I afford it? And it's not really like the advice that I took. So it's hard to, but instead of buying a house in LA, first I invested out of state. But I guess what I try to communicate with people is I'll have I don't know, an attorney or someone ask, hey, I want to invest in real estate. I want to buy an Airbnb property. And I'm like, okay, but it goes back to that time. It's, are you going to make more money doing 1 hour of your work as an attorney, or 1 hour, like, I don't know, managing the like guest who couldn't get into the Airbnb because the lock didn't work. And so I think there's this idea of, oh, passive investing, but it could be leveraged investing, right? Like your time, it's not a trading time for dollars to invest in real estate, but it's not fully passive.
Yeah.
You still, and long term rental versus a short term rental. You're like in the hospitality business. So if you buy a rental property and you don't think of it as a business, it's going to fail. It's not going to do well. Even if you, maybe some mom and pop owners who bought properties in the 80s for $2, they don't treat it like a business. They just, their tenants pay their rent in cash. And when we deal with those owners who are looking to retire and sell or have management, but I just don't think the market like really allows for that type of investing now. Like you really have to be business minded about it. You don't have to be unethical. You can still be an ethical landlord. But so I just don't see a lot of opportunities for people to just be a straight up investor in this market without either a lot of capital or saying, you know what, I'm going to dedicate. People say that they want to flip houses. I'm like, that's not investing. That's a business where you flip houses.
There's a
Like
lot of sweat
that's,
equity that goes into
yeah,
that.
I'm like, that is a
None of
business.
like,
That is,
yeah,
so I do advise that if people want to get into real estate, and I feel like this is very classic realtor, but is to buy your own home
yeah,
because you're going to get the best interest rate. You're going to put the least amount of money down. And then maybe we're helping you buy a duplex with some rental income, or you're going to build an ADU, an accessory dwelling unit, or you're going to have roommates. I have plenty of clients who bought like a 2 bedroom condo and they have a roommate. So those are okay. How do we make it more affordable? But I do think it's just very hard to be just a straight real estate investor in LA, because the price to rent, you cannot buy a single family home here and have it cash flow if you're, unless you're buying cash, but that just doesn't exist, right? So it's like, how do we find other creative ways?
yeah. We're having the same kind of conversations here in BC because it's funny. My
You
daughter,
guys have,
it's expensive.
yeah, it's like more than LA. It's
Yeah,
very,
it's wild. So like there's a handful of things that have happened because the prices have gone up quite a bit, and then the prices for rental properties, it was expensive for rentals, but then the government changed a number of the rules and opened up the supply for the amount of rentals available because
mm-hmm,
we ended up having Airbnbs taken away unless it's in your primary residence.
mm-hmm,
And then they also opened up that the stratas can't restrict how many rental units per building anymore. So there's just an abundance of available rentals, which has brought the price of
mm-hmm,
rentals down. So we're in the same spot where it's the amount of rental income you're getting for the price that you're paying for the home. It's not fully covering it right now. So unless you have, like you said, cash or a large down payment, it's just not as profitable as it was before. And you obviously need to
mm-hmm.
make enough to cover all of the taxes and the utilities and then have some money set aside
Yeah.
for if things go like the hot water tank goes or the roof starts
Oh
leaking
yeah.
or all the things, right?
Well, they
So
will.
yeah,
People, when I first, not to, but when I first was investing in real estate, and I didn't have any real estate. We were all like teachers, social workers, and I'd mention I'd be like at the rock climbing gym, or oh, I'm gonna buy a house, and they'd say, what if the roof needs to be replaced? And I'm like, well, it will need to be replaced.
yeah, it
Like it's a
will.
house. Like the question is when, and do you have the reserves for it? Is it this year? Is it in 10 years? But in a way, it's actually freeing because real estate is so uncomplicated. It's like water heater, foundation, roof, like they all need to be replaced. There's a cost associated with it. You can just budget for it and work backwards. And if you're surprised that your roof needs to be replaced, then you were not It's
We
like,
don't even have words to
yeah,
tell you if you're surprised. That's how we feel about it.
yeah,
That's so funny. It's true though. It is very true. I like the eyes wide open kind of like
yeah,
mentality about it because it is a good investment to get into real estate and pay your own mortgage. But yeah, like you have to, like you said, run it as a business. You should be putting some money away to protect your investment, right? Like water gets in and oof, that thing, the house is not gonna
yeah, the
last long
water.
with the water. The water's the
Hmm.
worst. So then tell me a little bit about how you like manage your clients and keep your relationships with everybody because
Hmm.
being in the business 6 years, you've obviously had enough time and that you have like turnover of clients at this point where people are probably like rebuying now or selling
Hmm.
with you and all that kind of stuff. And I think that it's a thing that gets missed a lot is keeping that relationship. So can you share with me a little bit about like how you keep
Yeah.
up with your clients and
No, that's good. I want to listen to more of your episodes and hear what other people do because I do think that's super important. And I think it's been easier for me maybe because my business really is built on relationships. Like it was a career change for me, so I just had to tell everybody, I'm not a teacher anymore. Now I do real estate. And here I am. And that was like my first clients, right? Were just folks who already knew me and I guess trusted that I knew what I was doing. And so then, yeah, and it's always been referral based. I'm just constantly, oh, so and so told me to call you. And I don't take that for granted because
mm-hmm.
I don't pay for leads online and I don't do oh, I want to see a house today. That's just not, that doesn't work for me. Like I'm a parent of a young child. I can't just run out and show houses like that with people I don't know. So it's very much relationship based. So I think engaging with my clients has come naturally because a lot of these people are friends or colleagues or have become friends. I do try to do like client appreciation at least 2 times a year. And this year I'm thinking about, okay, what are some fun things that people might want to do? I'm open to suggestions of what has worked for folks just to make it authentic. I just want to hang out with you because I don't, even just from a logistical standpoint, it's like LA is really big. So
No,
maybe
there's people there.
if you're a realtor who focuses on one little neighborhood, but if I were to go do the pop buys and hey, I just thought of you, I'm here. I'm like, it is a very large area. And so I don't, I'm not going to just invite myself to people's houses. So it's nice to say, hey, I'll feed you, just come hang out because I love getting to catch up with people and I hear about what they're doing. And then in terms of, yeah, so I guess keeping in touch with existing, my forever clients, I call them, and then trying to find opportunities for new folks to maybe get to know me before, there's like a lot of people who've maybe had a call with me or have seen me on social media, but like we haven't actually gotten to meet in person because they haven't started looking at houses yet. So I try to create like some fun ways for us to just hang out where it's not a lot of pressure, but then once you see, that it's possible.
Yeah, I love the client appreciation events. It's probably one of my favorite things.
Yeah.
I even do this, I even have this mindset for my friends because it is so hard to keep up with everybody. We're only one person, and there's just so many people that we're trying to connect with and help and support and all that stuff. So I love the client appreciation events because then you get to connect with everybody all at the same time. There was a few kind of fun ideas that have bounced around in the past, and it's like hosting like a bowling night where you
Mm-hmm.
have shut down the bowling alley and you just have all of them come and their friends and their family and they can invite some of their friends because then you get to meet their friends. But I always feel like birds of a feather flock together. I
Mm-hmm.
love my referrals too.
Yeah.
They're just the best because I'm like, well,
Yes.
we love working with this person and
Yeah.
we're friends with this person. So I'm like, obviously we're going to get along too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that those are really fun. Or there's been like movie nights in the park that I've seen people do with
Oh, that's cool.
putting up like a projector screen and then they get like rent a popcorn maker type stuff, like really cool. But then people come to you, and I'm like, no, you just see
Hmm.
everyone.
Yeah, I know.
Good, so
I'm
good.
like, I love hosting and I don't love driving all over the place. So I'm like, if you can make it here, I do have to maybe start doing some geographical ones because I don't know if you're familiar with SoCal. We work like all of LA County out to Riverside to Ventura to Orange County. So it is a pretty big area.
Yeah.
Um,
A friend of mine lives in Orange County. She did
mhm.
live in Orange County. She's moved with her boyfriend now on the island. So her boyfriend lived in Nanaimo, which is an hour from
Okay.
Victoria, where you said a friend of yours lives. And so she's from Orange County, and then she just moved to the island. And so I have flown to LA, and she's picked me up.
Yeah.
And
That's a good friend.
yeah, I know. I was like, oh my goodness, but I didn't realize that it was that far. And then she was like, next time you got to see if you can go to. There was like an airport right in Orange
Hmm.
County. I can't remember what it's called. It was like John
John
something.
Wayne.
John
Yeah.
Wayne, thank you. Anyways, and I was like, okay, next time I'll do that. I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
She was so great. She took me.
That is a
Like,
very nice friend.
yeah, she's the best. But yeah, she took me to poke in a poke bowl and took me back to Orange County. It was great. But
Yeah.
yeah, it is. And like adding in all that drive time, it ends up making the whole day go. So if we can have just everybody come together, that's.
Hmm.
And like we said, birds of a feather flock together. They might actually all start becoming friends with each other too.
They do. That's one of my favorite. Yeah, because I get to be talking with folks. It's such an intimate process, I think,
Yeah.
buying a house. I have clients who we do everything. So office buildings, gas stations, vacant land, first time home buyer, multi unit. But the like home buyer, that is like I love doing that. And I was told early on, oh, you're going to work with first time buyers just the first like year or two of real estate. Then you're going to move on to, you're supposed to like work with first time buyers and then do listings, whatever. But I don't know. I like home buyers. I just love working with buyers. I feel like it's more about the person and less about the house. Obviously, when you're listing a house and you're working with a client and they have goals and the focus is more on like the house and marketing the house. Whereas a buyer, it's okay, what are you looking for?
It's
So
in a
yeah,
different level.
yeah, it's like you're like with them. So then when I see them connecting with each other and we have like a taco party or a pizza party and
I love
I
it.
see them talking, I'm like, oh, that's so cool. Like they're all connecting. And then they all sometimes start to know each other. Oh, that was my old boss. Or, oh, and
The
I was
world is so small, isn't it?
it is, yeah, which is cool. And since I was a high school teacher, I am very fortunate. It was so cool that I actually got to help two of my former students who are in their 20s buy their first homes. And then some of my clients are also my former colleagues. So at one of the client parties, my former students were like, "Oh, my teacher is here from high school." So anyway, just I think that's really cool, and I feel like real estate has been, yeah, just like a way to connect with people, and it hasn't felt gross or salesy, which I was really nervous about when I got into it. I was like, "Oh, I don't want to be a realtor. That's ew." But obviously, now I know you can make it whatever you want it to be.
Yeah, it's definitely. I felt that way too, and I've had a number of because I do coaching for realtors too, and I've had a number of students that are just like, "Oh, I feel salesy, and I don't want to do that,
Hmm.
this, and this." I was like, "You need to shift your mindset that like they need your help, and that if you're coming at it from an angle of helping them get where they've told you they want to go, then you're giving them what they need, and you're supporting them in
Yeah.
the areas that they need support in." I think that there's a number of times that I've heard people talk about real estate kind of being like in comparison to car sales, and I'm just like, depends who you talk to. Like
Yeah.
you need to interview your realtors and figure out who aligns with you values wise, and then stick with that person, right?
That's funny because so we're a very small boutique brokerage, and our broker, my partner, he always jokes. He's always, remember, we're not used car salesmen. And
Yeah.
no offense to used car salesmen, but that's exactly what we're here. If you want to help buy a house, great. If not, it's okay. We're not here to try to sell you a house.
Yeah, and you know what? There's so many awards that they give out for like how many houses you've sold and all that kind of stuff. And I actually had a bit of a thing about it earlier this year because again, we're at the beginning of the year, so everyone got all these awards for how many houses they've sold in December and all this stuff. And I had a big shift in my life. I went through a separation and I have primary custody of my kids. And I do really lean into the relationship and the connections and all that stuff. And I'm like, why are we glorifying like this massive number of how many people you can sell houses to and convert and all the things. And
Hmm.
I'm just like, it should really be more about the relationships you built and
Hmm.
the value that you brought to these people and just how smooth the transaction was. Like, there's just like the measurement that they're
Hmm.
going off of in order to show success in the business is just not something that I
Yeah,
have been feeling really good about. And so I love to hear that your
that's
broker is
true.
just, you know what, we're here if you want. And there are some things that we have to help our clients overcome in order to help them get where they want to go. But at the same time, I'm like, I'm not here to convince you to buy any specific house. I am
Hmm.
here to help you find the house that actually like checks your boxes or
Yeah.
checks the ones that are the most important. So we all make compromises, but either way.
Yeah, but that's their compromise, right? Like I'm
Yeah.
not the one who's gonna I don't, and I feel, and I say this in my calls, and I'm like, I'm not trying to be flip, but I don't care what you buy. Like,
Yeah.
I'm not going to live in it. You can buy out in the boonies, you could buy a high rise. I don't care. That's not me. You're the one who's going to buy there. And I'm not going to, I can't be the one to make the compromises for you. So let's just go see what feels right. And if there's ever like in escrow or before where it's starting to feel like there's a
Mhm.
convincing conversation, I'm like like I truly it's okay. And I just try to make sure that, and I have an amazing partner, Marissa, she's my showing partner. We started working together when I had a baby, and I was like, can you help like drive to see houses, because I'm not as available. And so she's an amazing partner. And yeah, we're really are a team, and we're now like the same person. We're always having, oh, tell them this. Oh, I already told them that. So we're like, you're basically getting both of us having that conversation. And I really appreciate it that like someone really feels like they can just bounce stuff off us. And we're okay. Like once we've seen enough houses with them, and I love it, Marissa will text, she'll be like, this is the one. But we don't tell them that, but and then they're like, okay, yeah, this one. So it's cool because we get to know, but we're not going to be the ones to say, this is your house.
Yeah.
But we know when it's the right one. So that's nice. It feels like on the same team.
Yeah. You can feel like the emotional pull to it. Okay. So we're at our time. I don't want to lose retention for people because it usually happens around the 30-minute mark. So I would like to ask you one more question, and that would
Sure.
be what advice would you have for people getting into real estate? Like your 6 years,
Mm.
there's like a 87 to 90% failure rate getting into this business. So, what advice do you have for people getting in that will give them longevity
Mm.
in the roller coaster of real estate?
The bar is low to get into real estate, let me tell you. So just be better than everybody else. Just have integrity.
Integrity.
If you don't know something, say, I don't know, and then go find out. Don't lie. Don't just be ethical and get really good mentorship. That's really important, I think. And a mentor who like has your same, if you want to make a million cold calls per day, like that would be a great mentor to have. If you're more like relationship based, and find a mentor who like matches a little bit more your personality so you don't burn out. And I hate it, but my broker, when I first got in, he was like, just tell everybody you're in real estate. I was like, that's your advice? Just tell people you're in real estate? But it does work. Like just being consistent, being there, being producing content if you're posting online or sending emails or phone calls, not in a gross way, but just like subtle reminders that you're here when they're ready. I think those are really helpful for people getting in.
Yeah, that's really good advice. Don't be a secret agent. There's so many people that I
Yeah.
know that they like don't say anything. They don't have a social media platform, and they're like, no, oh my like cousin or whoever, like friend of a friend, like use somebody else, and I'm like,
Did they know?
do you have a relationship with this person? Have you been in
Yeah.
connection with them? Are you reminding people? Like, are yeah,
Hmm.
if you're not reminding people and you're a secret agent, then nobody's gonna remember. You have to be the top of mind. I think that's really good
Yeah.
advice. Thank you so much for all of your knowledge today and sharing how you came into real estate and like the bumps along the way. I think being vulnerable is like a really beautiful and like rare thing for people to put out there. And if we can learn from each other's mistakes, I think that we would all be in a better spot. I'm
Yeah.
gonna put all your contact information into the show notes as per usual for anybody who's listening. And if you want to connect with Sammy in LA and surrounding area, even though it's a bit of a drive,
We'll be there.
they can reach out that way. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks, Skyleigh.
That's a wrap on this episode of Real Estate Real Talk. Whether you're an agent building your business or a buyer or seller trying to get the real story, thanks for being here. If this episode gave you clarity, confidence, or just something to talk about, I'd love for you to follow, rate, and share the show. It helps more people find these conversations. If you have questions or want to connect, head over to SkyleighMcCallum.com or come hang out with me on Instagram. Thanks for listening, and I hope you catch the next episode on Real Estate Real Talk.